I want to see the next public appearance that Doug Bowser makes where he comes out in a crappy dress and a crappy wig dressed as Doug Bowsette. Please, Nintendo, do this. Don't be a coward. That would really make fans embrace him, I think. Especially the weirdos. And you know the weirdos are the ones that spend the money, okay? Believe me, I got tons of Nintendo crap. I am a creepy weirdo. Hey there, my mischievous koopalings. Welcome to the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode 17. I am your host, Oni Dino. With me, I have one of the Hammer Bros, but he's never actually done any carpentry work before. It's Galen.
My diploma's in the mail, I swear.
Do you think that the Hammer Bros are actually carpenters?
As much as the Mario Brothers are plumbers.
That's true. Like, my biggest complaint there is that they're throwing their tools all around like they're nothing. You know, you're going to damage your tools.
I always viewed it more of like a juggling act gone awry, but
Oh, that's really cute, actually. That adds a good layer.
Hammer Bros Circus.
I got nothing for that. I'm trying to think about characters and nothing. So, the big news this week is something that our bodies were not ready for. That's right, getting that dumb joke out of the way immediately.
Too soon.
What do you mean too soon? No, it's an unoriginal joke and it's an insult to comedy. Like, everybody's making the joke and it's dumb. Anyway, Reggie Fils-Aimé, Reggie Fils-Aimé is retiring as president of North America Nintendo. Whoops. So we're going to be talking about that. We'll also be talking about how ATLUS is gauging interest for Switch ports of all their IP, like Persona. Mm-hmm. Plus, some new rumors about Xbox adding Xbox Gamers Pass to Nintendo Switch. Now, I typically don't like to talk much about rumors, but we're going to entertain this one, and I'll explain why during the show. Before we jump into the news, let's see if either of us leveled up by checking out our adventure logs.
Adventure log.
Galen, you've been playing some Resident Evil Remake 2. How's that been going for you?
I have actually been playing the RE2 remake for a little while now. I finally got through my first campaign recently, and I feel like I've played it enough, and now that I've gone through it once, I can actually give an overall opinion on the game. Game's good!
Yeah, game is real good.
The game is really good. It really captured the essence of what it was like to play the game the first time through. I don't have nearly as much experience with the Resident Evil franchise as you do, Oni, but I still got those like tingling sensations.
My goodness.
I know. It was really interesting to see a game done right for a remake.
Oh, I know, right? So refreshing.
Mm-hmm. And it genuinely gave me some moments that I was kind of freaking out about. Like, there's this one area where I was accosted on both sides. One side I had a bunch of lickers, the other side I had a bunch of zombies, and things went downhill very fast.
Ooh, so many tingling feelings.
All of the tingly feelings. And I got I had a little bit of like the survival, edge kind of kick in me. And I might have freaked out a little bit, which is enlightening.
That's good. It's nice to feel alive, you know?
Yeah! And not zombie food. Oni, what have you been playing lately?
I have to apologize off the bat because I did not play Daemon X Machina Prototype Missions demo like I said last week. I'm sorry.
Boo.
Please understand. Look forward to it next week.
I will give you a pass on that one because, Oni, happy late birthday.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, calling you out on that one.
Sort of on that note, I did have a pretty rough week. Lots of life stuff and busyness and yada yada yada. My birthday also was just kind of a rough day, just incidentally, not like related to the birthday at all. Just a lot of stuff going on. So I needed something that would shut my brain off, that I could play in quick bursts and probably right before bed. And for me, if you know me a bit from listening to the podcast, for me that is a Warriors game. So I was playing Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition on Switch. I won't say too much about it just because it's been said before. It's also an updated port from the Wii U and the 3DS that combines the two releases.
I do have one question for you. When you play Hyrule Warriors, who is your preferred character you like to play as?
Man, it is so hard because there are so many characters. There are so many. Like, I haven't unlocked them all because of that game has content for freaking hundreds of hours. The content to dollar ratio that you get in that game is ridiculous. So, I mean, I got some that I super love. I want to say Impa is my favorite character because of her design and whatnot. I love the way that they did her in the Hyrule Warriors game because it's based off of the Skyward Sword one, but just a little bit more badass. And God, she's just so cool.
Nice. Very nice.
But she's got two weapons, so she's got two totally different play styles. And I mean, you can say that about lots of different characters in the game. They all play so differently. Even like a slow character might have a fast weapon also. So suddenly they're totally different with a different weapon. Yeah. So anyway, game's great. Game's a ton of fun. Plays nice and smooth.
Nice way to turn your brain off for a bit.
Absolutely. The most welcome change for me is the balancing that they all did. Now, I didn't play the 3DS release at all. I just played the Wii U and its DLC. So all of this extra content is brand new to me. But the additional balancing that they did is so nice because there isn't anything outrageously frustrating like I experienced with the Wii U game. And it's still tough in spots. There's still lots of materials to collect. Don't you laugh. But it's still great. It still makes you feel like you're making good progress and really entertaining, and yeah, so much content that it feels fresh every time that you play it because you can switch between so many characters. My God, it's great. I've played a lot of Warriors games, like the Dynasty Warriors game, Samurai Warriors, lots of spin-offs, and this is still probably the best one that I've ever played.
Nice.
Yeah, so
really, really nice.
Anybody that was like thinking about it or was kind of like, maybe later or whatever, give it a second look because my God, it's so good. I forgot how good this game is. Yeah. Sorry. Low energy. Must recharge. Must heals, please.
Did you forget your coffee?
No, I had so much coffee today, man. It did nothing for me, honestly. I feel like a skeleton on a frickin' roller coaster.
I have actually been going with French press coffee lately, which has been interesting. I like it.
I used to do that. It was really nice because I enjoyed the ritual of making the coffee in that manner.
Yeah.
That's part of it too, right? Just enjoying your moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I nearly forgot. Just a reminder that this is a weekly show. Episodes come out every Sunday morning, super early for iTunes and Spotify listeners. Comes out midday-ish on the website. Speaking of the website, there's so much news, of course, every week. We can't talk about it all, so we cherry pick it. If you want to get up-to-date information, round the clock, non-stop, check out our website, nintendoeverything.com.
Press start to play.
So the big news this week was, of course, Reggie announcing that in April of this year, he will be retiring as Nintendo of America president. He's not dying. Why are you singing Amazing Grace?
I felt it was fitting.
No. Anyway, it's bittersweet because, of course, the gentleman taking his place is Doug Bowser. Appropriately named, of course. Everyone's already made the joke, yada, yada, yada. So funny. Funny joke. Funny frickin' joke, everybody. I shouldn't be so cynical. I'm sorry. My energy's low. So let's talk a little bit. I want to do a little bit of a special feature this podcast and just kind of talk about like who Reggie was, what we thought of him, is our favorite memories, and where we're going to go in the future with Doug Bowser.
Yeah.
So I'll start off by asking you, Galen, do you have any particular memories of Reggie or any thoughts that you want to start off the discussion with?
Where to start? Reggie Fils-Aimé has been such an iconic part of not only just Nintendo, but just gaming in general for the past, over a decade now.
Yeah, I think it was around 15 years that he was working for Nintendo.
Mm-hmm. I have to be honest, the first time I really remember his name coming up to me and, like, taking special notice of this is a guy who is worth paying attention to was during the 2010 Nintendo E3 press conference.
Okay.
He really kind of took ownership and brought that conference together when he was, like, talking about what games were going to be coming out, and it was a really good lineup that year. That was the year that Skyward Sword was really kind of showcased and talked about. They did Kirby Epic Yarn, they showed more of Metroid Other M, they talked about Donkey Kong Country Returns, and...
Okay, now you mentioned a game I can get on board with.
Yeah, well, it was a really big year at the time, and yes,
Yeah,
I know, like, Skyward Sword is, Skyward Sword. But you're also talking about an E3 press conference. This is before, hindsight should have been applied to it, and the level of hype that there was during this conference was just unbelievable for me. I distinctly remember going over to my buddy's house with him and his brother, and the three of us watching this conference on TV, and near the end of it, I think it was about the time they were talking about Donkey Kong Country Returns, and they were announcing the 3DS, that I made the joke of, like, clutching my heart like I was going into heart palpitations, going, "No, Reggie, no, I can't take it anymore, Reggie, what are you doing to me, Reg?" As stupid as the joke as it was, that kind of cemented his name and his status in the back of my head. Ever since then, he has gone forward to be such an integral part of the community of Nintendo.
Yeah.
Think about how many memes there are about him. I mean,
oh, I know, right?
My body is ready, I feel like a purple Pikmin. One of my favorite ones was, like, during Smash Bros. When they were announcing Mii Fighters as characters. They had him and Iwata do a semi-decent fight scene. I mean, what CEO does this kind of stuff?
I know. I think that's so much the joy of it, too, is, like, they're an entertainment company, and they have these, suits. These people at the tippity top of the ladder, and they should be, barking orders and raking in cash. Instead, they're public figures, and they're acting goofy. And Reggie was a huge part of that and pushed, I think, the three main gaming giants to go in that direction, as that is sort of an expectation of you.
Yeah, and, like, you can tell that he was having fun. Every single scene, every single joke that was thrown around, he just ate it up and enjoyed it so much.
Oh, I know.
And you can also see it. I mean, he was open to getting involved in the community as well. A bunch of the YouTubers that I watch have actually had partnerships and deals where they talked to him, they interviewed with him. He and Matt Pat had a debate on a Game Theory episode where they talked about, is this, does motion controls suck? And I mean, it was an actual video they put up on YouTube, and they had a debate about the entire thing. Him and the completionist, Gerard Khalil, they had a conversation where they were testing out each other on who was the bigger Zelda fanboy. And it was just it was so endearing every moment. And it's very bittersweet. I'm glad that he's leaving in good health. I'm glad he's leaving on his own terms. But we're going to miss you, Reggie.
On that note, like, this is quite a young retirement, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, good for him, because I encourage young retirement in general. I think that it's good for your health. It's good for the industry, because it, out with the old, in with the new sort of thought. It's not great for the younger working generations to be constantly fighting against positions where people in their 60s and 70s, even though they're capable of working and even though they love working, they're fighting against them because the position isn't opening up. And, the ladders, the rungs in the ladder aren't being moved up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is just ultimately a good move.
Yeah.
Something that I was always amazed with, he is such a fantastic public speaker, and he has such a commanding live presence.
Absolutely. That guy knows how to work a crowd.
Even though, of course, it came across from time to time as like corporate speak, because he's doing the very trained public speaker kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It still was great because it was so commanding, and he didn't come across as like a limp noodle like some other announcers have. Other announcers in Nintendo even. I'm not trying to throw shade at like Microsoft or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And of course, one of my favorite things about him is how he embraced the memes and the audience jokes that people just kind of made. As I said, seeing a COO or a president interacting and playing along, rolling with those punches, that just adds so much personality and character and charm to the brand that is Nintendo.
Exactly.
Reggie embraced the Reginator jokes on the internet. On the internets.
On the internet.
My God, what's happening to my brain? I got Pikmin taking away brain cells or something.
Was it the purple one?
So they ended up doing like E3 2013 or 2014. I remember they ended up doing fils-aime, which was the Reginator, but they didn't want to say Reginator because, Terminator, trademark, all that junk. And that was so fun, where he's moving around like a robot. He obliterates the woman in the office with his laser eyes in the video that they put up on the Nintendo official YouTube, where she's like, oh, I don't know if we can put Smash in the hands of people. Like, we have to go to Best Buy and do that. Like, that's too much work. And he's like, eliminates, and he kills her. And then they're like, okay, I guess we're putting it in Best Buy. And that's how they announced everything, where it's going to select Best Buys throughout the states. That's so much fun, He brought us those weird memories. My favorite, though, is the Yokai Watch Dance. It was like a 40-second commercial, and they have it still up on their YouTube, where...
What?
Yeah, so...
I don't think I've seen this.
You must see this. Dear listeners as well, you must see this. Some breakdown for you. Back when Yokai Watch was initially coming out, in North America at least, because I think it came out earlier in Europe, they're trying to introduce the concept of what is Yokai Watch. There are these spirits that live in the world. Once they like inhabit you or whatever, they change your behavior. They alter you based on whatever their personality trait is. They're like a one-note thing. So in a business meeting, Reggie gets inhabited by these seaweed creatures that like to sing and dance. And so Reggie is sitting there and nodding along to the presentation. Suddenly, the yokai gets him. He jumps up. He starts dancing. And my favorite part is the second part of the dance that he does, where he's shaking his booty and he's tapping his watch and he's got a stern face. And I love it so much that I do it myself. It's like part of my ritual. When someone's not listening to me, I'm like, listen, you gotta move. We gotta do it. Come on, let's get going. That kind of thing. I'm doing it right now. I don't know if you can hear it. I don't know if you can hear my booty shaking. But Reggie gave me that booty shake, and I will never forget him for that. So before we talk about Doug Bowser, though, I want to mention how, of course, this is not the only big change that they've been having at Nintendo across the world. Mm-hmm. Now, last year, in June of 2018, is when Furukawa became the president of NCL in Japan. And another thing that I want to mention, too, is the age of these guys that are up there. Furukawa, in particular, is really young for a Japanese president. He's 47. That's young in general, but especially for Japan. Now, we also, in that same month and year, got Stefan, and I don't know how to say his last name, Bole? I think it's Bole. He became the Nintendo of Europe president, while Shibata from Nintendo of Europe went back to Japan to be on the board of directors. And he is 54. I'm saying all this information. I'm just blasting information at you. Sorry, it's just all over the place. And then now with Nintendo of America's president, Doug Bowser, who is 53, there's all these big changes and restructuring that's happening in Nintendo. So far, what we've been seeing on a Nintendo in the last, 3-4 years has all been good stuff, and they've been making a lot of great changes. And I think that this is just one more piece on the chessboard of them making smarter business decisions and diversifying their interests.
Yeah, and I mean, stepping back and looking at it as a whole, companies need to evolve with the times, and they need to really make sure that they stay connected with their audience and, their consumers. I feel like this kind of young presidents and young, higher ups are getting more people who have more of a connection to what is needed for a company to thrive in this kind of environment.
Yeah, I would hope that they're a bit more forward-thinking and a bit more progressive and open to change.
Absolutely.
I think that we're seeing that a little bit. I like that point that you mentioned about connecting with the audience and evolving with the times. That's exactly what Reggie did when he started working for Nintendo before he was even the president, and he was working in, I think it was sales.
Mm-hmm.
He pushed Nintendo into a more exciting direction in terms of presentations at the very least.
Yeah.
So on that note, I want to talk about Doug Bowser.
Hey, Doug Bowser.
Reggie set the precedent, especially for the Nintendo of America president, that you got to be a public figure. You got to be entertaining also to be a president. Not just all the stuff that you do at your desk and behind closed doors and the stuff that really matters, but you have to connect with your audience. Now, Doug Bowser, with having the last name Bowser, already has not only a foot in the door, but the foot and the butt in the door. He's getting freebies with that, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I want to see Nintendo run with this, and we're already seeing Doug Bowsette memes. Please.
I have not seen any of those yet.
The still waters run deep on the internet, okay? They're there.
The dark web is overflowing.
I want to see the next public appearance that Doug Bowser makes where he comes out in a crappy dress and a crappy wig, dressed as Doug Bowsette. Please, Nintendo, do this. Don't be a coward. That would really make fans embrace him, I think. Especially the weirdos. And the weirdos are the ones that spend the money, okay? Believe me, I got tons of Nintendo crap. I am a creepy weirdo. Or, speaking a little more realistically, let's just dial it back from the creepy weirdo angle. Give us a Bowser game where you play as him and the koopalings or something like that. Make that a big game that's going to come out, next year or whatever. And have Doug Bowser announce it, embrace it, play into it. Just have fun. I want to see that.
Can next year be the year of the Bowser?
Yeah. What is it on the Chinese Zodiac next year?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know why I asked you that question expecting you to know the answer. Oh, it's the year of the rat. Well, that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
That doesn't work at all. Well, whatever. Play into it anyway, regardless of what the Chinese Zodiac says. Because I know that was driving your business interest, Nintendo, right? Oh my God. Where's this show going? What direction?
I do have to agree with the point that you made earlier before you completely got side-railed by Chinese astronomy. You definitely have to be a public figure in this position. This position more particularly than any others. Because Miyamoto, Iwata, Kara,
Koizumi.
Oh, yeah. When you are talking about Nintendo and talking about Nintendo getting in touch with their community, they are so good at putting a public face behind whatever message that they are trying to say. And they have a long, long history of that. you have to have that kind of charisma to go along with it if you're going to succeed in this role.
And we've seen that kind of charisma a bit out of Bowser already. It's so weird to say that, but that's it now. We've seen it a bit. Like I saw a photo of him on stage and he's wearing like this sparkly yellow jacket that says Team Bowser. Like, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's fun. I like it. Do that stuff, you know? So hopefully he really runs with it. I have faith that he will, you know?
Yeah.
You can't replace Reggie and not be like that.
Exactly. The thing that gives me the most amount of hope is actually when he first got hired onto Nintendo. So Nintendo actually sent out a tweet at the time, kind of introducing him and saying, hey, this is our new president of sales, blah, blah, blah. But it was a picture of him holding up a sign that said, thank you for the warm welcome. But if you notice, in the back on a shelf is a stuffed Mario and a stuffed Luigi that have been hogtied and held ransom with a, I think it's an NES controller or something. And
that's cool.
It was so subtle, but fans
Yeah.
looking at it and make the connection, oh, well, Bowser just hogtied Mario and Luigi. And I'm like, that's great. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And in my heart of hearts, I want to believe that he came up with that idea. There was sure some media team who came up with it, but if he was the one who decided to throw that in there, that's a really good sign that he understands the spirit of what it means to be a Nintendo fan.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't expect him to actually come up with those ideas, and even if he does, regardless, it has to run through an approval team and all that nonsense. Very few things, if any, I think fall through the pipeline, fall through the cracks, you know, like that.
Yeah.
Because it could be misinterpreted like BDSM or like, I don't even freaking know, just whatever people freak out about, you know, everything. So that's fine, I don't expect that, but for Nintendo to accompany his public appearance and image and charisma with things like that, yes please. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. From an experiential standpoint, he definitely has experience kind of leading a company and leading a division like
Tell me
this.
more about that while I Google to make sure experiential is a word.
Experiential is totally a word.
Okay, continue. I said continue.
This is our second Google Foo this episode.
God, it's a word. It just sounds wrong.
It's totally right. Anyway, okay.
No,
so,
I agree with you. Guess who is wrong? This Dino.
Yeah, that one. If you look at his work history, and I'm taking all these straight from his LinkedIn page, so he worked at Procter & Gamble for about 23 years. I think the first 10 years was in a sales position, but then he moved up into some VP positions within the company. But after that, he went to go work for EA.
Right.
I mean, take that as you will. I mean, on the one hand, in the time period that he was working there, they gave us Mass Effect. On the other hand, they gave us Mass Effect 3.
I mean, you have to think about, like, what he was responsible for. He was responsible for planning and marketing during EA's probably most successful period, 2007 to 2015. You know?
No, he has some good credentials behind him. And then he's been working for Nintendo for, I think it's like since 2015, I want to say?
Yes.
He's had enough time and enough experience within Nintendo to kind of know how to roll with a video game community. And if he has the kind of humor that he has been showing in those tweets and just that interactivity, as well as having somebody like Reggie as a mentor.
Yeah. I would like to see just Nintendo going in this direction that they're going, and for him to foster the seeds that are already sown for him, you know?
Yeah. So, welcome Doug Bowser to the Nintendo limelight.
And let's bookend this by saying there is a fantastic goodbye video on Nintendo's Twitter account from Reggie himself. It's a little sad, but so nice. I mean, he's still the president. He's still even the president for like another 2 months at least.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm gonna miss Reggie.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna do the booty dance though, every day.
Just tapping your watch and shaking your booty.
And the stern face too. You can't. It's a trifecta. It's a trifecta of success that Reggie has created for us. Okay.
I'll leave the booty shaking, stern facing to you.
And the watch tappet. There's a trinity, man. That's something I can get behind. I can do something with that. Moving forward, we're going to talk about the rumors that recently came out about Xbox Game Pass and more coming to Nintendo Switch. This speculation originates from Direct Feed Games, who put out a video on it. And Game Informer backs up some of the reports too. So firstly, before we go into it, what is Xbox Game Pass, right? This is a Nintendo podcast, so I don't expect people to know what it is. I barely knew what it was.
Yeah.
Xbox Game Pass is a subscription-based service where you pay a certain amount and you gain access to a library of Xbox One and 360 titles. So sort of like a Netflix kind of thing, I guess. Now, this report specifically mentions, allegedly, Ori and the Blind Forest and Cuphead will be coming to Nintendo Switch via this. The app is also in the works, enabling Xbox Game Pass and Project xCloud. So this is all kind of interesting stuff. We've talked about it a little bit in the past because we did hear information, we talked about a couple episodes ago, through, I guess, a leak from a schedule at GDC, which is coming up in March.
Yeah, we talked about that, I think, 2 episodes ago, like 2 or 3.
Yeah, where we know that Xbox is coming to the Nintendo Switch in some form. We don't know exactly what. It could be like the most minuscule of like not important things, or it could be something really substantial like this. So that is why we're talking about this particular rumor, and this one does seem to have a little bit of foundation behind it. Even though I don't like the rumor mill, I much prefer just sticking to information, you know? Anyway, what do you think about this, Mr. Galen?
And it's a very interesting move from Microsoft as a whole, because
Yeah.
they have another console that they've been talking about in development.
Oh, have they?
Well, same thing. Tinfoil Hat Rumorville right now, but they have, I think it's like codename Anaconda or something like that. Or
Oh my god, overcompensation.
But yeah, they have rumors of what the next Xbox is going to be. And if this is something that they are going to be working on, why they're sharing their IPs and their brand naming so much. Like, is this a sign of how Microsoft is going to be treating the gaming environment?
So, side note though, before we go into that, if they're already talking about like a new console that's going to be coming out, is that not just bad marketing? Like, this screams of like Sega pre-Dreamcast, you know what I mean? Like, they did the Xbox One, and then they realized that they were, lacking in terms of, oh god, I hate using this word, but power. But then they did the Xbox One X, and then that hasn't been a huge success. Not that it's been a flop or something, but it hasn't been a huge success from as much as we know. And then now they're already talking about another console. Like, like Sega did like the Genesis and the 32X, and then they did the Sega CD, and they just kept releasing hardware things, confusing their market. And this is less confusing for sure, but still confusing the market and still reducing the amount of trust that they have in the Xbox brand, right? This isn't as bad as Sega, but I just thought it was an interesting comparison to bring up.
Well, and that's actually something that I wanted to bring up myself a little bit later, but
oh,
now that
birds
it's
of a feather flock together.
I'm wondering if this is Microsoft's way of kind of like reading the words on the wall and kind of like planning ahead for if this is the direction that gaming is going, and kind of like forcing the hand preemptively.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, we've seen it with their past couple of Nintendo Directs, E3 presentations, where more and more of the games that they're announcing, they're like, hey, this is Xbox exclusive, and then a little subnote saying also playable on Windows.
Yeah.
Like,
I wanted to ask you about that because I had a feeling you would know for sure. But all Xbox games are available on Windows, right?
Not all of them, but most of them.
Okay.
I mean, there are a small selection of games which are exclusively console-based, but even those have later been released on PC later down the line. And Microsoft has really been trying to foster an environment where they can play their IPs on multiple platforms in multiple ways.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if this is Microsoft kind of preemptively going the way of Sega, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, Sega started to turn a profit when they stopped making consoles. And they focused on all of the good games that they had under their name. Because the Xbox One and the Xbox One X have not been doing as well compared to, like, the Sony PlayStation and even the Nintendo Switch, I wonder if they're kind of getting ready for that inevitability. I mean, changing topics a little bit to the possibility of not necessarily a merger, but a partnership between Microsoft and Nintendo. One thing I wanted to point out is both of their main campuses and their main headquarters are actually based, down the street from each other.
Yeah, I mean, like, all of them are over there, though, aren't they?
You have over in Redmond, Washington, you have Microsoft gaming headquarters literally like 2 blocks over from Nintendo. And then Sony is... one of their main campuses is like over in California or something. It's a couple states over. That kind of close proximity, it's something that a lot of companies kind of take into consideration when they are talking about future partnerships.
You sound like Sarah Palin right now. Nintendo should be friends with Microsoft because they can see Russia from their house. That is not a topical joke, but that's what you reminded me of. Like, we won't talk about politics on this show. That's like antiquated politics in terms of that and timeline. So it's still worth the joke, in my opinion. That's staying in.
Regardless of, yeah, it's something I wanted to point out, that they are practically neighbors. It's just that more appealing for them to have some sort of a partnership.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't think that they're going into any kind of like partnership, though. So I see this more as Microsoft trying to corner the market in a way that they are evolving. Now, for Sega, they were sort of taking a step back and going into a software developer thing like they already were doing, but just focusing on software development. Microsoft and the Xbox brand are trying to evolve and re-establish themselves as a service-based platform. Now, of course, this is all speculation, right? I'm not saying that they're getting out of the hardware business or something like that. I could see them doing a hardware in the next generation along with their subscription thing, and they are manufacturing that hardware to be as efficient for their service that they're trying to push on everything. Mm-hmm. So that way there's still reasons for you to buy the Xbox hardware, but it's just on other places. I think they're trying to make different decisions and try different tactics to evolve in the gaming industry, which is still a very young and very, very fastly evolving industry. And I think that that's cool. I think that's great on Microsoft's part as a business.
Yeah. Microsoft has always had this history of trying to be proactively experimental without really thinking, is this something that is necessary? I'm remembering a lot of the controversy that was going on when the Xbox One was originally launched. A lot of the features that they were talking about on, like, you always had to be online with the console. You could... any game that you purchase on any console, you just had to make sure you sign in with your profile, and it accesses a server for all of its stuff. I mean...
yeah, they've been pushing like the online connectivity thing for a while, and I think that they're kind of finally finding the right avenue that they want to go down.
Exactly. And, like, even before that, I mean, the whole thing with the Kinect. They pushed that for a couple of years. They were really backing that horse for a while. They've always had a history of trying to guess what the next big thing is going to be and try to get a foothold in there to be like, hey, we were the ones who came up with this first.
Right.
If this rumor is true, and remember, everything that we've been talking about is still purely speculation and rumors.
Yes. I wanted to say that in my speculation, Xbox plans to bring Game Pass and xCloud, allegedly, to other devices is ultimately about money. And I speculate that this business agreement bottlenecks profit in Microsoft's favor. Now, that's a bit specific, right? But hear me out. Why would other hardware makers such as Sony or Nintendo, and of course Sony is not allegedly doing this, which makes sense because they're direct competitors, right? Xbox and PlayStation. I think that it is a high risk, high reward for Microsoft while being a low risk, easy money situation for the party that is Nintendo or whomever.
I would agree with you on this. And I actually re-listened to our last podcast, so I won't repeat myself too much on this, but...
Too late!
I feel like this is Microsoft's way of broadening and just spreading their hands as far as they can get.
Yeah, of course. I mean, ultimately, it's about making money, right? So
yeah,
they're trying to find out new ways to make money that it's currently not being made. They're trying to identify other slices of cake from pieces of cakes that people have forgotten about or not identified as cake.
Yeah. If this is indeed Microsoft trying to guess the way that gaming consumption is going, and they are trying to evolve themselves to a point where it's more about the games that are making versus the platform that they are going to be on, setting the seeds of having Microsoft or Xbox Live and on different platforms, do you think other companies such as Nintendo are going to come out and come up with their own version or their own idea in response to this?
Nintendo will be the slowest to join that party. They will always be the slowest to join that party because they are conservative with their business moves.
I actually don't know, because they have said so many times this year that they have wanted to broaden the recognizability of their IPs. They want to bring Mario to more platforms, such as phones, such as social networking sites.
Yeah, but I don't think that they are going to do that on competing hardware, even if they're not direct competitors like PlayStation, at all.
Yeah.
I see them broadening and diversifying their interests in very traditional ways, such as, movies, plushies, frickin' Universal Studios, those kinds of things. That's what I see them doing it as. I just don't see Nintendo being that risky in terms of forward approach.
I actually think that Sony is the most resilient to this way of thinking, because they have been the ones to showcase themselves so much that if you want to play games on a Sony console, they're going to be Sony games. With the whole thing of Fortnite, for example, and I hate bringing that example up again, but when Fortnite came out on the Switch, you could play with Xbox players while playing the Switch version of it. They had those, what's the word for it?
Crossplay?
Yeah, they had that crossplay functionality. Sony was the only one that kind of omitted themselves from that, and it was a huge stink for a couple of months too.
Yeah, they're right now trying to take their ball and go home, They're trying to establish and build their gates higher on the markets that they currently have. However, as we've seen with every single console generation, that flips on a dime,
Oh, absolutely. Here's my question to you. We have Microsoft, the company who is fully fledged on this idea of wanting to bring their IPs onto other consoles and to spread their Xbox name out. And then you have a company like Sony, for example, who is very against that. They're very traditional, they're very reserved. I can actually kind of see Nintendo going either way. I can see them being the deciding factor on, is this the way that gaming consumption is going to be going?
I don't see it as a question of that, though. I just think that Microsoft is trying to create this market, right? So currently we have the traditional sense of hardware makers, software developers, those kinds of main points, right? Microsoft is trying to create sort of like a distribution level in this mechanism where the games are being developed for Xbox, whatever that might mean, right? Whether it's the hardware specs or the brand or the exclusive rights to Xbox or whatever. Then Xbox distributes that to, say, Nintendo, the Nintendo Switch or the Sony PlayStation via the app, and it's all streaming to, Xbox's garage. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
Xbox or Microsoft is trying to bottleneck all of that and create that new tier where they can capitalize on that. And then they just pay whatever crazy contract of licensing fees to Nintendo or to Sony or whatever, while they are being the main guy that controls all this. I don't know if I'm articulating myself the correct way.
I see exactly what you're saying and the point that you're trying to make on this one. However, the way that I'm looking at this, I'm comparing this a lot to the way that other media is consumed, such as TV shows and movies. Look at Netflix, look at Hulu.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. Just like movies are being made or being distributed through Netflix, and then Netflix gives it to you on your hardware maker. But the thing is that
you're subscribing to Netflix in order to play all that stuff. I feel like Microsoft is trying to do that just for games.
Totally agree. The weird thing about this, though, is that this is not how the game market has ever worked. This is always how television makers have worked. You know, there's been the hardware maker that creates the TV. Then there is the...
Has it?
I mean, you've never purchased, say, a Zenith television, and then you subscribe to Zenith's channels that come in the TV. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it's worked. That's how it's worked in the gaming industry. So that's why those two forms of media are kind of incomparable in the truest sense of, like, let's compare business and how it can go and whatever. This is a completely unique situation.
I would argue against that.
Well, I guess that's why we have a podcast together, because I super disagree with you.
Yeah, well, and I would argue against that because in your case, you have, you know, like Xbox as the TV maker, and then you have Xbox who is also coming out with the channels, but you also have these other companies that are making stuff for the Xbox TV as well.
Yeah, I'm on board with you on all of that, but I'm saying, like, it's not comparable to the television industry because it's never functioned like the games industry has.
This is whole new ground. I'm gonna agree with you on that one.
Okay.
I don't know. This is an interesting time because I really want to see if this works.
Yeah, this is fascinating for the games industry and to see where it goes.
Yeah, this is an interesting rumor.
Yes, still rumors. Again, let's mention that these are just rumors from suspiciously noisy people of late.
Yeah.
People who have definitely been wrong in the past. So have your salt with this steamy info dump, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm really skeptical, clearly, because of the licensing. Like, it baffles my mind on a business aspect how this could really work in terms of licensing, but we'll see. I'm just more interested in official info, and apparently we're going to get some kind of info in the next month, though, with GDC coming up, because there's going to be some sort of presentation there. So, stay tuned for that, I guess, huh?
Well, let's see what happens.
Now, right before we move on, though, I do want to just touch upon the idea of streaming. Because Xbox Game Pass, you stream your games, right? That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you've got an app on your Switch, and then you're streaming your game, just like with Resident Evil 7 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Star Ocean. Jesus, I said it again. Phantasy Star Online 2. I gotta play some Star Ocean, man. It's clearly on my brain. Phantasy Star Online 2. All those things are in Japan as streaming apps, basically, where you're playing the game on a PC through your Switch. Internet go real fast in the Japan. Internet goes so slow in the North America. And to my knowledge, to a lesser extent, but still slow, in most countries in Europe. So, how do they try to establish this business if the internet sucks in North America, a key territory to make money? You know what I mean? Like, this isn't really my question to you or anything. This is just my question to the internet waves of going slow, because internet just sucks in North America.
It's true. It's not the greatest, but it definitely is getting better.
Yeah, better, but too slow for how fast Microsoft wants to move with this, right?
We've been seeing a lot of rumors about possibly a Switch revision or something like that in the future. We know the console is incredibly portable, and now we're getting these rumors about Microsoft possibly partnering up to stream games or something like that. I'm taking all of these factors. What if the Switch came out with a mobile version of itself?
You mean like it currently is?
No, I'm talking about, instead of relying on Wi-Fi signals, relying on something that sends dedicated internet directly to it, kind of like what the Vita did when it first came out with the 3G version of it.
Man, they can't even get Nintendo Switch Online right with dedicated servers and you're paying for the damn service.
I know.
They're not going to do this mobile stuff.
Well, okay.
I'm sorry, the frustration is not directed at you that you hear from my voice. It is not.
What if they came out with a service that you would pay on a monthly basis, but that allowed you to get internet anywhere on the Switch?
What if Zelda was a grill? I wind waked the wind right out of your sails, and I'm sorry, but I enjoy it, you know?
I know you do.
Go on.
There would have to be so many things that would have to go right in this, but let's hypothesize and imagine what would happen if they did do something like this. What would this mean?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that, and I could go down that avenue with you, but then you're basically saying, what if Nintendo were a totally different company? You know?
Is it really, though? Nintendo just created a partnership with Japan's leading mobile networking site. They have talked about definitely wanting to invest interest in mobile markets as a whole, as far as apps go. So there's definitely an interest in the idea of taking gaming on the go.
Fair points, and I do agree with you on that, but I don't know. I guess it's not as far-fetched as I think, but I just don't see that happening anytime soon. That's where I'm thinking is the short term, like the next year or two. Perhaps in the next 7 or 8 years, I could see that. But I could see platforms being built in the future, not so much as hardware revisions, but as streaming capability revisions or something like that. Mm-hmm. I could see that, but I don't know. It's not in the immediate future for me in my deck of mind cards.
And I'm kind of with you on that one, because I don't see Nintendo wanting to do this anytime soon, but I can't rule out the possibility because, quite frankly, this gets around that question of how do you deal with bad internet? Because there's a lot more phone signals out there than there are landline wires and landline connections. I mean, there are still places in the US that the best you can get is dial-up, but you get phone service, and at 4G speeds, they now have 5G. If we're looking at the evolution of technology and looking at the evolution of way that we perceive media content consumption, with so many people focused and so many companies focused on subscription services based on one-time outright purchases, it's not that far-fetched of an idea.
But my thought on that is that it involves so many different levels of unrelated infrastructure.
I agree.
So that's why I don't find it possible. You know what I mean? I don't see companies playing nice with each other to that magnitude, you know?
You'd be surprised sometimes, but again, I'm going to step away from this because I realize I am talking about the aliens at this point. So I'm
okay. Let's move on before you get probed.
Yeah.
Cowabunga!
So just the other day, ATLUS launched an in-depth survey on their website. Among all of the questions, they ask what fans want to see from their IP in the future. And specifically, they ask about Shin Megami Tensei, Persona, Catherine, and Dragon's Crown if there is interest for Nintendo Switch ports. Why are you laughing?
No reason.
Don't embarrass me in front of what did I call people? Hold on.
The koopalings?
Yeah, don't embarrass me in front of the koopalings, whom I clearly care about so much that I forgot what I even called them.
No, I'm laughing because in my notes, those were the four of the 5 franchises that really struck out to me that ATLUS has backed that I would love to see come to the Switch. But that's why I thought it was funny.
So go to their website first off, listeners. Go to their website, make your voice heard, give some direct feedback that they are clearly asking for. I love it when companies do this. I think that this is great, and this is our time to shine as consumers. So do that.
If they have a write-in part, we want to see their most famous game, Karate Kid for the NES, come to the Switch. Needs to be a thing.
Gross.
However, going over the list of games that they did come out, one that I completely forgot they did was Thousand Arms for the PlayStation.
I think they published that, though. They didn't develop it, right?
Was it? I'm going to have to double check on that.
Curious if they even own the license on that anymore, you know? That stuff expired, especially after like periods of like 10 years. That stuff expires.
I just have a personal love of that game simply for the theme song, but that's just me.
Are you talking about Miss Hamasaki Ayumi?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, Hamasaki Ayumi sang that
You
song.
know I am.
Yes, I know you know I know.
But do they know you know I know you know?
Now, side note, speaking of Hamasaki Ayumi, she was the face, the real-life face that they based Rebecca Chambers on in Resident Evil Remake and Resident Evil 0. So, just throwing out that little tidbit of information. I don't know why it's in my brain. I need space for other things.
You need to play more Hyrule Warriors.
Going back to ATLUS now. What games in these series that they mentioned about Switch ports would you like to see come to Switch?
Honestly, all of them. I absolutely loved Dragon's Crown. I think I got it for free when it was on the PlayStation for whatever their PlayStation Plus monthly subscription was.
Oh.
I played the crap out of that game. I mean,
Yeah.
side-scrolling, beat-em-ups, like Golden Axe style, just with a modern style to it. I love it. I love that game so much.
I really liked the art style of that too, like, because it had all of these crazy, outrageous proportions.
Actually, oh yeah, absolutely it did. Playing it reminded me a lot of the old D&D arcade cabinets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. A high fantasy, Western fantasy.
Yeah, high fantasy, leveling up your character, casting spells, picking your class. It was very reminiscent when I played that game. I would love to see them do more with that. I was also a big fan of the Catherine series. Fantastic puzzle game. And the story that went along with it. I loved the choices that they presented with you in the game while still having this very, I don't want to call it convoluted puzzle system because that makes it sound bad. Complex.
Yeah, it was a Pushmo puzzle system.
Oh god, it was Pushmo on crack.
Yeah. On demon crack.
Mm-hmm. ATLUS has a lot of really good franchises I would love to see on the Switch.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would love to see sequels, and I would love to see them continue them on the Switch, too.
Yeah. Multiplat, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So, go to ATLUS's website, take that survey. Vote yes on Switch.
Yeah.
Springman!
And then very quickly, I want to say, Square Enix trademarked Collection of Mana in Japan. Now, this is weirdly trademarked in Japan, not North America or Europe. And again, this is the words in English, Collection of Mana. This is quite possibly a localized version of Seiken Densetsu's collection for the West. Now, Seiken Densetsu's collection released in June of 2017, quite a while ago, and it's just the first 3 games in the series, a game from the Game Boy and then 2 from the Super Nintendo. And they're basically being emulated.
Yeah.
The 3rd game in the series was never released outside of Japan, and that's probably what held this collection back from being released in the West. There's no English version official. And since it's basically emulation, I totally would not have expected them to release this in the West because of localization costs for the 3rd game. Not even sure about having the source code to the level where it could be properly localized. I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of work for a very niche audience. So I didn't think that Square Enix, of all publishers at this current time, current Square Enix, would do it. Now, this isn't confirmation of it, but it's a great guess. So we're just going to have to see. Localizing it now is just strange to me. I think, personally, what I would rather see is a proper remake for Seiken Densetsu 3 because the story was awesome. The replayability was awesome. There was clunky battle systems that were not as smooth as its predecessor, and it had some bugs in it. That game deserves to be told. Told? Shown? Played? Yeah, played. On second thought, there's also lots of other games in the Mana series. Is this potentially a new collection of different Mana games? Is it going to be Legend of Mana and Children of Mana, maybe even Sword of Mana, which is a remake of the first game? It's wacky. It's all over the place.
I'd love to see whatever it actually is, and if they... Because sometimes companies do just, like, trademark particular things, just having plans in the future, and then those plans, like, fall out before too long. Like,
That's true.
They're getting things super prepped early, so I'd just like to see what actually does come of this.
Yeah, and as we know, current Square Enix takes them frickin' and forever to release a damn game, so wake me up when I'm dead. And then finally, PSA, the Black Dandelion DLC launches February 28th for Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes.
Nice.
This is Volume 1 of a 2-part DLC, and in this DLC you get to play as Shinobu, which is one of the best characters in the whole No More Heroes series, and it also features a new scenario called Bad Man Strikes Back. I already got this. DLC was quite reasonably priced for the cheap game that the base game was. So I'm looking forward to slashing up a whole bunch of enemies and screaming Moe as I do it. That was her catchphrase. The funny thing is she doesn't even know what that word means. She just says it all the time. That's canon. Freaking love those characters. That series has so many good characters and so much personality to it. Ugh.
Hi, I'm Daisy!
That does it for our news this week. Remember, there's tons more stuff on NintendoEverything.com. Check that out. Now, let's talk about the additional DLC that we have for you. Galen, you want to go first?
So, my additional DLC this week is actually the Deadlocked episode with Reggie Fils-Aimé. It's my little tribute to the Reginator. I think I actually talked about this a little bit earlier as one of the ways that Reggie kind of linked up with the community and actually, in a way, had a little bit of an open discussion and an open forum with it. It's part of the Game Theory series, and Game Theory, the channel, decided to do a sub-series called Deadlocked, where they just debate finer video game points. They actually had two separate videos that they did partnerships with. One of them was in regards to motion controls and is it a good way to interact with games, and the second one was, is it worth Nintendo being in the console business? Both sides kind of brought up some really good points, and they do it in a very aesthetically pleasing, because they have little animations at the bottom to like show battle damage or whatever during the conversation. It does feel sometimes a little bit scripted, but the points that they make are still valid during the conversation. So really like the video, and give it a watch.
Okay, and as for me, I also have a tribute to the Reginator. This one is just a stupid video, 1 minute long splash of just dumb internet crazy Reggie stuff. It's sweet now in the context of Reggie leaving, and rather than being like super annoying to me or something if I had seen it say a year or so ago, now it's like, aw, that's sweet.
It's endearing.
Yeah, it's endearing. So that's a dumb video. It's literally, I think, like 1 minute and 20 seconds long. Check that out.
Yeah.
Links are always in our descriptions. Now let's move on to listener mail.
Listener mail, listener mail.
Taking this out.
We're gonna open up some listener mail. Nope,
taking
you're
it
gonna
out.
Keep it. You're gonna keep it.
Nope.
Keep those lyrics in there.
No, it's not
Gonna keep it.
listenable. It's really bad. If you have an email and you would like to send it to us and we'll talk about it on the show, you can email us at nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
That email is nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
And your email might sound a little something like this. This week, Leah writes, "Hi Oni and Galen. I loved your extra long episode last week from the Nintendo Direct. Will you be doing that for every Direct? Anyway."
Probably.
Inevitably, right?
Yeah, seriously. I feel like when the directs come out, that it's just so much content that we just want to talk about it, that we kind of lose track of time sometimes.
Yeah, if it's information dense enough, then we'll talk about it. Like, it might not always reach 2 hours, but you can always expect if there's a direct, we're covering every bit of it and going into the extra details that weren't in the show.
Absolutely.
So let me continue reading. After hearing you guys talk about Nintendo 3DS on the questions last week, I wanted to know if you have any games left on your 3DS that you still want to play. Love the podcast, and I look forward to it every week. Thank you, Leah.
Thanks, Leah. That was a good question.
So, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I actually have a couple that I still need to play. I still need to go through... Yeah. I believe it or not, I still need to play the Bravely Default games. Both the first one and the second one. I own the first one. I have yet to actually pop it in and play it.
Like a good modern gamer.
Yeah, pretty much. It counts if it's just on my shelf, right? I also really want to play the Samus Returns game. Funny thing, I got the amiibo for that game, but I have yet to actually get the game itself.
Well, clearly your priorities are correct because the Metroid amiibo is the best amiibo they've ever made. Stop making amiibo. You can't make a better one.
It's so squishy. And then another one that's just a personal interest of mine. I really want to play Miitopia. Like, I played the demo of it, and there's just something so endearing to me to make all of my friends and, like, put them in all of the various roles of, like, hey, this is Oni. He's going to be the white mage.
Yeah, I believe last week on the show we couldn't think of the name of this stupid game, so we kept calling it, like, Me Fantasy or something stupid. Yeah.
Oni, what do you still got to play?
So actually there's some overlap. I have Miitopia on mine as well.
Yes!
Then I have Just Bravely Second because I played and beat the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also have Persona Q and Q2, Alliance Alive, which I have and I'm looking at I can see it from here. I want to play that game. And then also Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. I have such strong feelings for isolated science fiction anime nonsense. And Strange Journey is all of that. Especially if they take place in like Antarctica or some very... What's the word?
Exotic.
Desolate?
Distance.
No,
desolate's a good word.
Reserved. What's the...
Isolated?
Restricted? Isolated, thank you.
Yeah! I love how having a conversation with you is like playing 20 questions.
Basically, like, what's the word? Sort of sounds like, has Latin roots like, comes from Greek like that's where my brain goes. It's terrible, honestly.
I've learned that whenever I have an extended conversation with you, I have to have a thesaurus close by.
I'm sorry, can you say the word again? You think you can get there?
Tell you what, if you can say a full sentence, I'll say it again.
That's the end of that, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm the mean one now. Thanks, Leah.
Again, if you want to send us an email us at nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. So what's coming up on the website this week? Of course, round-the-clock news, non-stop news. We also have some exclusive Smash Ultimate and Sakurai translations coming out. I don't know if it's this week or maybe a little bit later next week. We're all working on it right now, so look forward to that. Yeah, we also got some stuff on Oninaki that we are translating as well, and that should be coming up real soon. Yes. So check out the websites where you don't have to feel assaulted in your ears like you just did, where you're just reading. NintendoEverything.com. We also got a Twitter. Official Twitter is @NinEverything. Also the YouTube, youtube.com/NinEverything. Then, if you want to talk to me personally, you can find me on Twitter @Oni_Dino. And I also got an Instagram where I post food and cats and video games too. Yeah, video games. I just posted my plant amiibo because I decided to go out and get an amiibo after you told me about yours, Galen.
I saw that. It was very, very nicely done.
Yeah, it's on my Insta. So find me on Instagram @Oni__Dino. There's 2 underscores. Don't even get me started. Galen, how about you? Where can they find you?
Well, the best way to find me is always at my Twitter. It's going to be Mobius087. I post a bunch of stuff on mine. Fun thing, I actually had somebody send me a Magikarp.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I know.
I'm so jealous.
I have.
Why did you get a
officially
Magikarp
received-
and not me?
Because I've been asking for the Magikarps. I have been
Yeah, I
petitioning
guess if you're so
for the
desperate.
Magikarps. I am desperate for Magikarps. So, if you guys would like to continue to have me outshine Oni here in my Magikarpness, please continue to send those to me.
You think you can get there? You want to do another sentence again?
Nope, we're going with that. We're moving on.
So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for getting to the end of the podcast. You're the MVPs. I want to ask my MVPs if they could give us a rating on iTunes in particular. iTunes is super huge in terms of our listener ratio, and getting those 5-star ratings helps the show immensely in terms of iTunes promoting us and connecting us with, so you listen to, I don't know, NVC or Nintendo Dads or whatever the hell. You might also like Nintendo Everything podcast. They don't recommend you unless you get enough ratings. So just dropping by and giving us that 5-star rating does a huge help to the show. Thank you so much for your support. Without you guys, we do not exist.
Well, we exist. We're just much sadder.
We don't exist. Don't. And remember, for everything Nintendo,
Stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
bye-bye.
Later, everyone.